So many players we want to discuss, so we're going to jump right into it and then give my brief overview of the class in general. But be sure to check out Steelers Depot not only today, but the next week or two for sure as we go through the draft picks more and talk about them as people, as their character, their impact, and certainly what they offer as a player. Because we're going to really delve, myself and the whole team at Steelers Depot, into these guys and really try to give you the best insight into the value of these picks and how these guys might fit both year one and then longer term. But we'll start with the first pick of day 3. And if you read the articles, my mock draft, some of the podcasts that Dave and I have done, you knew this guy was on my radar, and I really had a strong feeling that this guy was going to become a Pittsburgh Steeler. And of course, I'm talking about Kentucky running back Benny Snell. He just embodies everything you look for in what makes a Steelers running back, for better or worse. And the things he checks is that he's a big power back. And in this draft class this year, there weren't a ton of power backs or guys that were, really big. When Pittsburgh drafts running backs lately, last 7-8 years, it's been guys that are 225 pounds plus. That's been consistent. And this class didn't offer many of those guys, but Snell was right there, right on the edge at 224 pounds, and certainly plays big, plays with power, leg drive, contact balance, and the ability to finish his runs. So that's really attractive to Pittsburgh. They also love productivity. I think one big reason why Jalen Samuels is a Pittsburgh Steeler right now is because of his production at NC State. And Randy Fichtner basically admitted it in an interview last year. It was either after the Oakland game or after the Patriots game, once Samuels really came on scene as being the guy after James Conner sprained his ankle against the Chargers. And Fichtner said in so many words that, we like this guy talking about Samuels because he found the end zone in college. And we like guys that found the end zone before coming to us, because I think their idea is, guys that have done it in college have a better chance of doing it in the NFL. I think in their mind, it's rare to see a guy not find the end zone in college and all of a sudden being a touchdown machine in the NFL. And you won't find many guys with better production than Benny Snell. This is a guy with 48 career rushing touchdowns, just awesome production. That's third all time in the SEC. That's trailing only Tim Tebow and Herschel Walker. That's really elite company to be on when you're talking about SEC college football. And when he did it in 3 years, had he stayed another year, he would have broken all the records. He was 12th all time in SEC rushing yards. Even if he gets just 1,000 yards, had he returned for a senior year, just 1,000 yards. That's been the lowest of his career. He'd have been second all time in SEC history, passing Nick Chubb and only trailing Herschel Walker. So a guy that just has a high amount of production. That's something this team really covets. And as they talked about, and I wrote about, a couple weeks ago, this was a guy that put Kentucky on the map. When he came to Kentucky, that program was bad. There's just no getting around it. That was a basketball program, basketball college. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he changed the culture and the tide of that program. And that's tough for any player to do, much less a running back. Usually you think maybe a quarterback might do that, but not a running back. But he certainly did. He led him to a 10-win season. This past year in 2018, the bowl game win over Penn State, beating Florida for the first time in 31 years. And guys, you want to check out the passion and love that Benny Snell has for this game. And that's what Eddie Faulkner and Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert talked about in making the selection. Check out the interviews he gave after beating Florida. This dude was so amped up. This dude was going crazy. He could barely contain himself speaking to the media. They're talking to the quarterback after, and Snell's in the background just going crazy. So a guy that certainly has a passion and a love for the game. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be a good football player. Certainly there's been tons of guys that haven't had NFL success that love the game of football, but it's something the Steelers look for. It's something they really wanted in all their draft class, all their draft picks. It's something that Snell has in spades. So a guy that has power, good character, a high energy guy. He's going to be someone that's going to give his best, not someone you have to worry about. And he's got good football bloodlines too. And like it or not, the Steelers might not always admit it, but they like guys that come from that football background. Devin Bush Sr., played in the league for 7-8 years, won a Super Bowl. Terrell Edmonds, football family. T.J. Watt, football family. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And, Benny Snell's dad played college football, I think at Ohio Northern, really successful back there, was a UDFA in 99 of the Ravens, played in NFL Europe, played in the XFL with the Las Vegas Outlaws, so got a little bit of time in professional football. But the big name there was his great uncle Matt Snell, who's one of the best running backs in Jets history. Was a first overall pick, I think, in the AFL. Was a fourth round pick, I think, in the NFL. Ends up playing for the Jets, and was the only Jet to score a touchdown in Super Bowl III. The famous Joe Namath guarantee game. And he had a great performance that day, and is still fourth, like I said, fourth all time in rushing history in Jets franchise history. So there's certainly some football bloodlines there. Running back is in the Snell's bloodline, and I think that's attractive too. So I said, is this my pick if I was Kevin Colbert? Maybe, maybe not. I wanted, maybe a different type of running back, and I totally get that. But when you look at what the Steelers look for, this is Benny Snell. They had Eddie Faulkner at his pro day. That kind of sealed it for me that they were really considering this guy. And to me, no surprise that he ended up being the pick. Even with all the backs they brought in, all the backs they could have chosen, Benny Snell makes a lot of sense. You do worry about lack of long speed, explosiveness. Probably going to be a guy like Le'Veon Bell, like James Conner, like Jalen Samuels is probably doing right this second. A guy that's going to drop weight from year 1 to year 2 to get a little faster, get some more burst and long speed to finish off some runs. But someone's going to come in and work hard. That's what you're getting with Benny Snell. So excited about that, and a guy that Steelers Nation's going to love. They're going to love this dude, and someone that you're going to root for, no doubt about it. Go to the 5th round now with tight end Zach Gentry. You knew a tight end would be addressed. I really wonder if Gentry would have been the pick had Foster Moreau lasted just a couple more selections. The Raiders nabbed him, I think at like 137 or right around that range. But Gentry's the guy. Big dude. I'm learning more about him. I thought he was going to be kind of the Matt Spaeth-ish big blocking type at 6'8". The report on him is that he's probably a better receiver right now than blocker, but this is a guy that's 6'8", that ran a 4.9 flat at the combine, and it's going to be a number 2, number 3 tight end. So if he's not a good blocker now, he's going to have to be a good blocker in the NFL, and that's what you're going to have to teach him if you're tight end coach James Daniel. But a guy that does have a decent resume as a receiver, going over 16 yards per catch each of the last 2 seasons, has made some contested plays downfield. A guy that's going to win with size, not really speed, and just take advantage of soft zone coverages. But you're looking for a good red zone target too. And this was the number 1 red zone offense last year. Not only was it the best red zone offense in football, it was a historically good red zone offense, about 75% of the time. Excellent, really strong numbers. And of course, you lose Antonio Brown, you lose Jesse James, you're trying to find some guys, not that Zach Gentry's going to solve all the problems or be those replacement guys, but a 6'8" tight end might catch a couple touchdown passes in the red area. So if you can get a couple big plays out of him there, and try to keep that red zone offense afloat, keep it where you want it to be, no worse than top 5, then that's going to be a good pick. So I want to learn more about him. Dave and I will talk about him some more, but a guy that was a quarterback in high school playing tight end, and hopefully will develop and grow, and comes in and works hard. But it's funny, Steelers have drafted 2 players in this draft class that were quarterbacks in high school, Deontay Johnson and Zach Gentry. So, maybe we'll see a gadget player too, see some fun stuff from Randy Fichtner in the preseason, or maybe even the regular season. So we'll get to the 6th round picks now. They made 3 of them, all 3 of them, starting with Sutton Smith in Northern Illinois. And I gotta admit, this one surprised me. The Steelers, when you think of a Steelers outside linebacker, TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, Anthony Chickalo, even Ola Adeniyi to an extent, they're bigger, kind of stockier dudes. And this isn't Sutton Smith. Sutton Smith's one of the smallest edge rushers in this draft, but you're drafting production and athleticism, overall with him. A guy that has 29 sacks over the last 2 years, 30 sacks in his Northern Illinois career, dominated the MAC, even played better against some higher level competition. So somebody that certainly has that pedigree and dominated his conference of football, even if it was a quote-unquote lower conference of football, which, I think Kevin Colbert would dismiss. They've had a lot of success with those MAC guys. So that's going to be the idea with Sutton Smith, is that, what he did in college, it can translate to the NFL, but he'll be a chess piece. He'll be a guy that'll play special teams, and Keith Butler alluded to him maybe playing off-ball, playing inside linebacker. It sounds like he's going to be primarily edge to start. Jerry Olsavsky was asked about Sutton Smith playing inside, and he said that Smith's going to be an outside guy, and that's probably going to be his spot. But really, you're looking at a special teamer, and a guy with some athleticism, and that's going to be the idea with him. But certainly size is going to be a problem. Can he hold up? Can he set a physical edge? in the run game. Those are going to be concerns with him, but he's not going to be close to playing on defense right away. You still got Watt and Dupree and Chick and Adenier. Then you get to a guy like Sutton Smith. So we're a ways away from Sutton Smith getting to that point and having those concerns. And if Sutton Smith is out there, then something probably went wrong during the regular season. So good special teamer, and we'll see where it goes from there. Second to 6th round picks, really good value here. Maybe one of my favorite picks on day 3 was Isaiah Buggs from Alabama, and credit to Dave Bryan, he had him in his mock draft. And a guy with, just basically 1 year production, was a JUCO transfer, a big 4-star recruit coming out of junior college, recruited by Carl Dunbar. We have that connection again after drafting Josh Frazier last year in the 7th round. So 9.5 sacks last year for Isaiah Buggs. That was more than Quinnen Williams. Not that Buggs is better than Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams got a lot of double teams, a lot of attention. That helps maybe free up Isaiah Buggs, but guy that has, sacks in his resume, 9.5 of them last year. So a guy that I haven't watched a ton of, but someone that I think is strong, has good hand use. Dunbar talked about how well he did in one-on-one situations where you kind of set aside the talent around him and you say one-on-one, how did this guy do in a vacuum? And overall, he did well. So I think you get him reunited with Carl Dunbar. They know each other, they know what to expect and what they're going to get, and that's going to not hurt, at least it's not going to hurt Isaiah Buggs. How much will it help? We'll see, but it certainly can't hurt to have that familiarity and that kind of starting point with player and coach. So I like the pick. Only thing I'm worried about with him, or at least the primary thing I'm worried about with Isaiah Buggs, is the lack of length. 31 3/4 inch arms, I think. I know that Dunbar talked about him playing outside and playing the 4-eye, but you're facing against tackles that are, minimum 33-inch arms, guys that are 34, 35. I do worry about the lack of length hurting him playing out on the more perimeter stuff. And I'll play, 1 tech, 0 tech, 3 tech. I think we'll be okay. But I think the further he gets outside the guards, he might run into some problems. So ideally, you're looking at him being an interior guy. But when you're running somewhat sub-package football, this team's in sub about 70% of the time. You're not really playing the traditional 4-eye, 5 tech. You'll get a little bit of that, but certainly the game's changed so much that it's less of an issue than it would have been 10 to 15 years ago. Coming in, pick 207 next to the last selection, Ulysses Gilbert III, the linebacker from Akron. I like this dude. I like the value. Maybe if it was a couple pick rounds higher, I would have been a little more concerned about it. But again, athletic cover linebacker that can come down and play on special teams. That's with Gilbert. I think he plays with good effort, good energy, hit power, and someone that's done well in coverage. A highly productive guy in the MAC again. You're drafting some smaller conference guys. You want to see high level of production. You got that with Sutton Smith. You got that with Gilbert III. Came in for a pre-draft visit. I assume he checked the boxes and the coaches saw what they wanted to see with him. So a guy that, again, may float a little inside, outside. Colbert made a passing reference to him playing potentially outside. I see him as the off-ball MAC linebacker, but again, we're talking special teams value for year 1, probably year 2, and adding good depth. You're just trying to transform this linebacking core that wasn't fast enough, wasn't athletic enough last year. With the way the game's evolved, Kevin Colbert spoke to that. You need guys that can cover and play in sub package and play in passing downs and cover tight ends and running backs in space, and they haven't had that enough since losing Ryan Shazier. So I think that's a good pick with Gilbert. I think at worst you're getting a quality special teamer. You're getting a high effort guy and someone that's going to be able to run down kicks and punts. And for the final pick, 219, Derwin Gray, the tackle from Maryland. I didn't know anything about this guy when they drafted him, to be honest, but he was a combine invite. I believe all the players drafted were at the combine, which is very much in line with the Steelers do. They've only drafted 1 non-combine invite in the last I think it'd be 5 years. That was Keon Adams in 2017. He was brought in for a pre-draft visit, so they like to have the medical. They just kind of like to have the testing, all relative to the rest of the group, not going off just pro day numbers. So Derwin Gray was at the combine. And an interesting guy. In the article I posted today on Steelers Depot, compare him a bit to Ramon Foster, a big dude. This dude's listed at 6'4.5", 320 to 330. Just a really good body type that, I know Tomlin and Colbert said they're going to start him at tackle, which is where he played at Maryland. He played left tackle. He could kick the guard. I think he can stay at tackle. I think he's got decent feet, not the most athletic guy, but because he's so big and because he is so long, he's got 34.5-inch arms, he's a hard guy to get around. And I think he's got really good upper body strength. I think when he plays with good technique and hand placement and leverage, he's got a good punch that can control blocks. And the way that, Ramon Foster, who I know kicked inside the guard, but he's just a tough guy to get around. So even if he's not the most athletic guy, because he just has so much size and length, so even if you get a step on him or an edge or a look, he's going to be able to recover. So I thought I saw some stuff that suggests he can play well at tackle. And one thing I'm worried about with Derwin Gray is his ability to work in space as a run blocker. Pulling, getting to the second level, trying to make those blocks in space, he does have a tendency to fall off and lunge and drop his eyes. So if you're playing guard, you're going to pull a lot, and that's going to create an issue with where his skill set's at. Now, if you're playing tackle, you're not always going to the second level as often. So I think in some respects, I'd rather see Derwin Gray stay at tackle, and I think in some respects, I think he can stay at tackle. But obviously, if you're a Pittsburgh Steeler, you got to be versatile. He mainly played on the left side with the Terrapins. Played a little bit of right tackle. I saw in some unbalanced looks, and I think maybe he referenced playing right tackle early in his career when he wasn't a starter. So he's going to have to at least show the ability to play both tackle spots. But a guy that's strong, finishes plays. I like his attitude and overall demeanor out there, which is nice. And I think he is probably a little better athlete than the way that he tested. He tested really poorly, and I think he does play a little more athletic than that. But high character guy. Guy growing up in D.C., could have taken a wrong path, but he got a scholarship to Maryland, stayed in school, a leader on that team. Maryland kind of referenced him and a couple other linemen as just kind of the foundational guys of that offense that ran the ball really well, ran the ball really effectively. The Steelers brought in Ty Johnson, the running back, for a pre-draft visit. Ty Johnson goes to the Lions in this year's draft, so a guy that I like, and I think it was well worth taking the flyer on. Overall for this draft, I don't know if I have a grade right now for it. I'm thinking about maybe a solid B. When you trade up and you lose a second round pick, you do have a slight drop off in talent, so that's a factor in this thing. But as Mike Tomlin highlighted, it was really about getting versatile guys, getting guys that are athletic, guys that can contribute right away on special teams. That's what this class really embodies. It embodies the way the league is evolving and transitioning to someone, to guys that don't have to be the biggest, but have to be athletic and flexible and versatile and wear a lot of hats. And, you're playing all this sub package, you're playing with all these different personnel groupings. You need guys that can stay on the field and guys that can help you in a lot of different ways. And I think, if we assume that at some point Sutton Smith and Gilbert III and guys like that, as a Bugs get on the field, that they can wear all those hats. And I think they're capable of doing that. So, like the draft overall, there are some picks, I don't love. Justin Lane, as I mentioned yesterday, I still have my concerns with Justin Lane. Do I love the Zach Gentry pick? No, I don't. I'm not quite sure what tight end I would have taken over him. But I really wish Foster Moreau would have dropped because he would have gotten a better blocker. And Gilbert III, is he going to be a slam dunk starter? No, obviously it's a 6th round pick, but I do wonder where that ceiling is at because I do have questions about him holding up against the run. But that's what happens. That's trade off when you do have to look at guys that have more speed and athleticism and cover ability. In the 6th round, usually you're not finding that guy that's also great against the run. If you're finding someone that can cover and run and play the run well, often they're not going in the 6th round. And if they're there in the 6th round, that means there's a character issue or a medical issue, and those are going to be concerns. So I do like the draft overall. I love how it started. Getting Devin Bush is that guy. If he works out, then the rest of the draft can suck, and it'll be a good draft still. So, I love that aggressive approach to get Devin Bush. That was such a glaring need and such a position that you miss, and the guy that you missed having that 3-down backer. And I think I've warmed up to Deontay Johnson about the value that he brings and the impact he can make playing that X receiver spot. Lane, there is potential there. I don't want to pretend like it's a terrible pick. I can certainly see why this team drafted Justin Lane, and then value was strong too. I thought Lane was going to be a mid round 2 guy. You get a mid round 3, so I'm happy about that. Snell, I totally understand why he was the pick, and Gentry, there's a little bit of intrigue there. Then you go production guys with Smith, Bugs, and Gilbert III, and Gray I think was a worthwhile flyer in the 7th. So the undrafted class, I haven't had a whole lot of time to review it yet. Watch out for Fred Johnson, the guard from Florida, a big guy that can move. I like that pick probably more than any of the others that came in for the UDFAs. Again, kind of an underwhelming class for the undrafted players, but Fred Johnson, I thought, was one guy that I think has some intrigue as the guy that could push and camp for a roster spot. So let me know your thoughts on that as well. Let me know your thoughts on the whole draft class. I'd love to hear your opinion. Give it a grade. Let's play that game. Give this a draft grade. For now, subject to change, I'm gonna hedge my bets here a little bit, but I'll give it a solid B for this draft class. But Devin Bush, definitely the A+ of any particular selection. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you're watching on YouTube, on Steelers Depot, or following me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Thank you guys for all the draft coverage, support, and viewership, and the feedback. It was awesome. We had an amazing draft weekend. Credit to our team at Steelers Depot for all the work they put in. Had that information on the ready as soon as the pick came in. We're putting information up, old articles on the draft picks. Really cool to see. Really like the direction the site took this year and taking that step forward, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. So again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.